Mhm.
That's actually what I've always loved about going to concerts in general. Even if it's somebody that you know and love, like you see them in a different light. The band AFI, I don't know if you know AFI. It's a Fire Inside. They got a lot of songs.
Okay. I'm not
They,
familiar with them,
oh my
but
god,
go ahead. Yeah.
but the band AFI for me, for a long time, like I had a couple of friends who were just like posters and listening to them all the time, and like I couldn't get into them.
Mhm.
And then they were like, well, we're gonna go see them. Do you want to come? And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. Sure, I'll just come because it's a concert and they paid for my tickets. I'm like, sure, let's do it. And I went and I had the best time at almost any concert besides Prince's that I've ever had. And like seeing them live made their recorded music make sense to me.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I got the energy, I got the feel, I got what they were doing, and it is a little bit harder to translate their feel on record,
Right.
but seeing them live, I got like that injection, like I got that injection of like their flavor. So then I went back to the albums and I'm like, these are great. Like I love these. No wonder
Yeah.
you love these for so long, So I feel like for some people coming into a Prince concert, if they were to sit down and go through your playlist, which includes some early things, it includes some middle things, it includes some late things, and it started off with lots of fanfare, lots of really really funky things, lots of discussion about like love and sex and how they're different, but also how they're connected and all of these things, and then you end with also you need to consider that even though these are the things of the universe and blah blah blah, it's like, yeah, like that's a good concert in my opinion. It's like that's a good concert in my opinion.
Yeah. And what again, what I love about your set list is that much like Prince, you can never predict what his next step was going to be. And that's exactly what you did on each song. But there's logic to the unpredictability.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I really appreciated about Prince. And even though I only saw him one time, I remember that excitement of like, oh my gosh, like I'm having so much fun. What is he going to do next?
Yeah.
And to another point that you just made about AFI that Prince captured is that it's one thing, like you can love a song the way that sounds on record, but I'm intrigued by what you do live, and can you enhance it? Can you expand it and add another chapter to the myth of that song, and make me appreciate it more? It was like, wow, I never would have thought that he would take it in that direction, but I love where we just went.
Exactly. To give another real life example of that, I went to go see Smashing Pumpkins. Smashing Pumpkins is one of my all-time favorite bands ever, and I was yawning at their concert because they are on stage singing their songs exactly the way that they're on record. No movement on stage. They're just standing there singing their songs. And I was like, it was very, very underwhelming as much as I love them. And I still listen to them all the time, but it didn't make me appreciate them anymore. It just was like, okay, cool. Like they're a studio band. I'm good. I'll just listen to their music and I'll be fine with it. Alanis Morissette's another one where I was kind of on, and then I went to go see her live and fell in love with her. Like she's amazing live.
I've heard that she puts on a crazy show live.
It's
like
crazy.
That's one worth seeing for sure.
Exactly.
So, and I know we're kind of going into another tangent again with this question I'm about to ask you because of what you just mentioned. Do you feel like there are certain songs where there should be, like, I guess it's kind of the dilemma as the artist. I mean, it's your creation, so you kind of have the liberty to do what you want with it. But I also think that there are certain songs where it's like the way that sounds on record is perfectly fine. I think if you add on too much, you're doing too much. But then there's others where you're like, okay, like you should be able to kind of expand on it and have some fun with it. So do you think that, like, it should be handled on an individual case basis, or do you think that every artist should expand on their creations on stage?
So I personally believe that everybody should. And that's less as a performer, because I know that I have a band now, so creating music is hard. So
yeah.
So something within you would tell you like, well, I wrote it and I put a lot of work into it this way, so I don't feel like changing it. I worked hard to make it this good, you
Yeah.
know. But also at the same time, you as a performer, you need to be able to give the person coming to see you live something different than
Mm.
it. I mean, because if there is zero difference between me listening to the album and listening to you do it live, then what is the purpose of me going to see you do it live?
Good
There's
point.
zero reason for me to do it then at that point. I'll just pay $10 for the album. I
Mhm.
won't pay $40 for the ticket and then buy a t-shirt and concessions and all of that stuff if it's
Yeah.
just exactly the same.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. And I think I had told you this before when we first, started talking, is that Prince was the first mainstream artist I ever saw live, because up until that point, I had only been to Christian concerts.
Oh wow. Yeah,
So for
if you told me that, yeah.
yeah, so for him to set the bar that high, like, the only other person that's matched that is Stevie Wonder, and I'm so glad I got a chance to see him when I did. But since then, the people in between that I've seen from the time I saw Prince up to this point, and again, I love this artist's work, but he kind of falls into the category that you said about the Smashing Pumpkins, where with Usher, he did tend to perform most of his songs the way you have heard them on record before.
Yeah.
And he still managed to put on a great show, but at the same time, I did kind of ask myself that question of like, okay, how come we didn't go deeper into his catalog, or how come he didn't expand on this with this theme on stage, kind of thing? So it did kind of it left the feeling of kind of wanting more.
I feel you there. I think it's different too when you talk about I think genre has a lot to do with it too, because
Mm-hmm.
like when it's rock, like a lot of rock is very like rah, like emotional, so you want that, you want to, like, you feel it on record, you want to feel it even more in person. Like if somebody's shouting on a record and shouting in your face with you there, it should be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's slightly different with like pop and R&B-ish sort of things, because in that case you are going to see them for the spectacle of them performing it. And with Usher, it's like, he's dancing on stage and there's a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
fancy lights and choreography involved.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that makes up for it in a way, I guess, because I don't know how many people are going to see Usher for his musicianship,
Mm-hmm.
and his ability to riff and jam like on the fly and stuff like that. So,
Gotcha.
but I get that though. Also, what it does is it makes me not want to go see anybody who I don't view in that way. You know what I mean? Because it's like now I'm just predicting that it's just always going to be the same for pop and R&B-ish type of performers.
Right.
But then if you go see a Beyonce or a Nicki Minaj, that's definitely not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't seen them live, but I've seen their concerts on YouTube and on, TV and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
like Nicki's concert is like just balls to the wall, just goes everywhere,
Uh-huh.
and mixes songs together and will extend on stuff and have bars that weren't in the original song. She'll make up shit on the spot,
Right.
it's like, that's the kind of performer that I want to see. I want to see I'm going to go and I'm going to see it, and it's going to be different,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not to say like, and again, like you might love it the way it is on the record, but if it's just going to be the same way it is on the record, just go listen to it on the record then.
Agreed. And I guess what makes it fun, from a fan's perspective, is that let's say that they do something that is impromptu and unplanned, and then they go on to another city, and and you'll hear that, oh well, they did this, this, and this. I'm like, oh well, okay, so they actually did something that was really unique when they were in my town,
Yeah.
that I can share with somebody and be like, oh, they didn't do that for
Yeah.
you, like, let me share this with you, and then you tell me what they did that they didn't do whenever they performed in front of me.
Exactly.
It adds on to their legend, and it makes it more interactive from a fan perspective.
Definitely. I did a video telling my story about the concert that I went to.
Okay.
I did it because it was Jam of the Year tour 97.
Mm.
And I told a story about why I love the song Freaks on This Side, because during the Jam of the Year tour, he would have this side go Freaks on This Side, Freaks on This Side, and he'd have this side go Freaks on This Side. But I was in the middle on the floor, and he had us say Freaky People in the middle. And when I shared that, there were a whole lot of people who were like, I saw him during that tour and he didn't do that at my show. So it's
Wow.
exactly what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
there was something special at my show, and he might have done it at a few other shows, but like,
Sure.
it was different than other people's shows.
Exactly.
And that makes it more interesting to discuss, right?
Mhm.
So like, again, like me making music with the thought that possibly I might perform it one day, like that is definitely something I'm keeping in the back of my mind. Like,
Mhm.
you know, this is where it is now. So what would we do if we were to do something live? And that's why Prince would do all the rehearsals, like all the stuff that makes it seem like it's very off the cuff and he's making it up on the spot. They rehearsed that. He drove them through so many drills.
Exactly.
And like, there was basically it made it so that he could go in a million different directions and the band would know exactly what to do with whatever he felt like doing in the moment.
Exactly.
And, oh my God, like that is what you respect even more so than all of the music and everything that he created. Just his command of the stage was just so huge.
And the last bit of my tangent, as far as this part, it dovetails off of what you said. Imagine, you know, people that have worked with Prince in a live setting, if they go on to work with someone else and they're not as unpredictable or they don't drill them as hard as Prince did, I wonder, do they kind of feel complacent in a way of like, gosh, like I've been through the Prince school of live musicianship and entertainment. They're probably thinking, oh, this is it? Like, this is nothing. I could do this in my sleep now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly.
I wonder if any of them have ever had that kind of feeling, because I'm sure they've gone on to, you know, to work with other artists and stuff like that. But I wonder if they said that to themselves, like, Prince put me through all that. Like, this is nothing.
Yeah.
What I'm doing now, you know?
Yeah. That's actually something that I've talked about with Shelby J on a couple of occasions.
Okay.
Like, Shelby J, when she did her concert, she was like, somebody was like, do this song. She was like, I know that song. Let's do it. Do you guys know that song? She's like, well, if you guys don't know it, you guys can catch up. And she just starts singing. Like, she starts
That is so dope.
The band catches up to her and starts singing along. Like, they figured it out along the way. And I was just like, that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to just be making up a song on the spot, or just be like, take a request of a song that's not even yours and just sing it, and your band can catch up with you and know exactly what to do. That's why, like, I feel like she is such a great, like, student of Prince. Like, she really did absorb everything Prince taught her. And like, every time I see her, it's like, I feel like she like emanates Prince. You know what I mean?
She got it. She definitely got it.
She was like leading the Funk Soldiers. It was very much the same thing. They were watching her for cues and, you know, and all that stuff. And she's so larger than life as it is.
I know.
You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I love the interview that you did with her a while back. I want to say she was like in a hotel room or something like that talking with you.
It's been too long. I gotta catch up with her again.
Yeah. And it didn't feel like an interview. It just felt like two friends getting together and having a conversation about someone that they both respect. And I have so much respect for Shelby. Like, she's,
I think too, it's interesting when you're in the public light, because people watch my videos and they feel like they know me.
Yeah, it does feel like there's a personal touch to it without you trying to manufacture it, you know?
Exactly. And I felt the same way listening to Shelby's music.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like listening to her music and watching her perform with Prince and all of that, like, I felt like I knew her. Mm-hmm. And so it really, when we sat down, it was just, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? And we just joked around a bit, and then it was very organic, you know?
Yeah.
It was the same thing with my interview with Josh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I cut some of the stuff out because he was just like, dude, I feel like I can tell you this. Let me tell you this story too. Like, I was just like, please do. But he was just so cool. Like, honestly, talking with him was like when me and you talk. Like, it was very like that casual, a conversation.
So those are the best conversations to have with people that you respect.
That's the way you want it too. Mm-hmm. Like, my interview with the New Power Generation, like, I literally, before we even hit record, I was like, I'm gonna ask you guys questions you've never gotten before. They're like, word? Let's see if you do that. And that's why when I asked Tony M if he had ever rap battled Prince, that's why he laughed so hard.
Yeah.
Like, man, what kind of question is that? You know, because I was trying to just come up with questions because I didn't, you know, because they even did an interview right before mine.
Mm-hmm.
So like I assume that they were doing interviews constantly because they were in town and it was celebration and all that stuff. So I'm like, I'm not gonna bring the same old questions. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
And I would imagine they probably feel burnt out from getting the same questions all the time of like, so how did you meet Prince? I'm like, yo, I just did that. Like I've done that interview like almost 30 years ago now when we first hooked up. Like
I didn't ask that. I asked some questions.
Yeah, but like I said, because you were willing to go outside the box, they're going to remember you for that.
Yeah, hopefully they do. Anyway,
I think they will. But anyway, yeah. So
anything else to say about this, I guess.
No, yeah, no. I feel like for like the last 20 minutes we've been talking about random stuff, but it's been good.
I think I think the conversation about what you should expect from going to a concert, I think what we just had was a conversation I think a lot of people have.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah.
I think it's something that people would like to hear and give their thoughts on as well.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if they feel the same way. Do they feel like, hey, you know, I actually prefer if they just perform the way that I hear it on the album. That's what made me fall in love with it. Or they may feel like you and I, where it's like, no, take me deeper into your creative process. I want to see it unfold, you know?
Yeah.
So